Okay, we're here with Margaret, Quinones, Perez. Thank you for joining us, and would you like to let us know a little bit about why you're running for re-election this year?
Um, the main reason is to provide a pretty stable and experienced leadership. The college is going through a major upheaval right now because of the pandemic. The college is in need of people that know the history of the college, people that understand the systems that are needed to be in place to keep the students and the staff and the faculty and other people in the community that touch bases there on the campus. We need to keep them safe. More importantly, we had to learn a more expansive modality of how to educate students, especially students who didn't know about distance education. And there are students who are high achievers, middle achievers, and low achievers that distance education is still not good for them. They don't learn that way. And so we need to be able to develop a philosophy and processes to ensure that all students are successful.
Thank you. And let's see, the first question is, you brought up a lot of really good points in your questionnaire about the necessity to improve diversity and governance in Santa Monica. I was wondering if you could give us your thoughts about how we ensure that that happens. You know, like a lot of, we had this recent lawsuit about the districts where some people said that that would be the way to increase diversity. So what's your opinion on how we actually affect that change?
Are you talking about the city or the college?
Both. So college board, and then also just in terms of city governance more broadly.
Well, in terms of the college board, we have been fortunate that we have representative diversity. We've had African Americans. We currently have an African American. There was a Latino many decades ago, and then I was the first Latina for the board of trustees. I believe that the board needs to be reflective of the student population. It helps invoke a spirit and a support that sometimes people don't get things. Just because you have it in your heart and you have in your mindset that you're progressive, you also need to understand what certain behaviors mean for certain people. For example, people will say, well, why can't all the kids just use Wi-Fi and do their distance education? Well, they may not understand that a family of 6 is living in a 1-bedroom house. They may not be able to afford Wi-Fi. Maybe they're fighting to get onto Wi-Fi to do their schoolwork. Maybe the parents lost the jobs and the children have to now support the family. That's what I mean by a perspective that's needed on the Board of Trustees. In terms of the city, I was not in agreement with the lawsuit. Part of it was because of the background of why it was being done. There is a need for diversity there on the city council and in the city. And I think that because voices are feeling marginalized, but there's also a voice that's making it sound like there's no representation in the city, which is not true. There are many of us Latinos and African Americans on commissions and boards. I'm an example of that. Is there a need for a Latino or Latina and African American to be on the council? Absolutely. And who holds that power are the people who does the endorsements. The people that are doing the endorsements, whether it be your club, our club, SMER, whatever the endorsing politics is, because our city is slate politics. It's not just individual campaigns. The bodies have to be committed to have diversity also. And you need to find people that are going to be there, and this is my bias, that are not going to be climbers. They're not doing it. A lot of people are getting into school boards and college boards to be a stepping stone to go to state government, which is okay, but you need to give some time to serve your time on the college board or school board. So that's my belief about diversity in terms of governance.
Thank you. And the next question I wanted to ask you was about, you said that there was some ongoing discussions about letting students, homeless students, sleep in the parking lots in their cars in a safe parking lot. What's the holdup there, and what can be done to make sure that service is available?
Part of it came down from a request from the Chancellor's Office in the state of California, and they needed to be able to tweak the language so that there were liability issues were covered for all the community colleges. And then to make sure that the state of California and the Chancellor's Office provided us monies for the showers, bathrooms, and also increased safety for the students that needed to park on our campus. That's the key issue, is to make sure that the safety is there and the facilities are there. And we have done other things in the meantime until we get that okay to do it. And that has been with our food drives, providing Wi-Fi in our parking lots for the students, and also making sure that students who needed Chromebooks could get it, and also making an arrangement with Spectrum to provide the home, no, it was Verizon, to provide the internet service. So we've done it on the periphery, and but not the actual parking on the campus, not yet.
Got it. Okay, great. Let's open it up to the rest of the board. Who's got another question? Let's go to Dami.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. Full disclosure, I'm a part-time instructor at Santa Monica College. But,
what do you teach?
Computer graphics and design.
Oh, okay.
In the design department, yeah. So, and part of that is too, like, especially with the COVID situation, it relates to it because now on campus, we've had to shift to all kinds of new things. But that's actually opened up kind of interesting opportunities, but we have a lot of challenges. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you, you have continuity. I mean, you've been there, but you have a vision too. And I'd like to ask you some of your vision, especially in the next few years, as we have challenges of dealing with, revenue and, situations of remote learning, and job training skills, like how much of that should we incorporate? Because, into the 21st century, people have to pretty much be educated constantly. So just want to open it up for your thoughts on some of these issues.
In terms of the vision of the distance education or the college as a whole?
Well, specifics of the next few years of dealing, because with what's happened with the COVID, it's pushed us into much more of this digital learning type stuff. And also, things like, we've had the job training stuff, like that, how does that fit into there too? Like, do we, how much of that do we incorporate into college? I mean, where do you want it to go? Because just traditional, like 2-year, community college is changing. So I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on,
Well, first of all, I'll make my educational thought pretty clear. Distance education is not a great modality for everybody. It's not. There are classes that are going to need to be face-to-face, in particular, the lab courses, the chemistry, the science courses. Some of those are going to need to be face-to-face because some of it requires online. In terms of futuristic, I could take you probably maybe 3 years, because 4 years, I don't know, but at least 3 years. I know this next year is going to have to be fine-tuning the distance education. And I know we recently reached an agreement with the Faculty Association to distribute $2 million to the faculty, whether they're full or part-time, to invest their time and skills to really fine-tune their distance education practices. I'm committed, and I know the college is going to be committed to give faculty and the support staff that they need to make sure that some people don't know how to teach like that, and they need the training to do that. When a community college faculty member comes out, they're an expert in their genre, but not all of them are an expert of how to teach. That comes with time. K through 12 teachers are taught how to teach and classroom management, but we're not. I was in the community college as a professor and a counselor, where we got all this experience, but like, here you go to your class and you're on.
I can attest to that.
And so we need to provide faculty with whatever they need to feel confident and to really interact with the students, and to provide the equipment, the laptops, the software. Then the next part is how do we make our students successful? That's going to have to be a goal. While we are in distance education, how do we make our students successful? Viva, online tutoring, supplemental instruction. That's really vital, whether you're on campus or off campus. And for some people that don't know what supplemental instruction is, it's like tutoring. It's like the instructor who's teaching the class spends time with the students after the class going over material that was covered in class. It's like tutoring, but rather than it be another person that's not in the class, it's the actual professor that's in the classroom or the instructor giving that extra instruction. The other thing is, for me, is going to be crucial, is the monitoring of bringing people back. We're going to have to implement that we have the right PPEs in place. I am not a big supporter to hurry up and bring people back. I really don't. I am actually pretty, what you call, conservative in that. I don't want any employee, faculty, student on my watch to come back and get ill or die. I don't want to have to look at their families and say, because we didn't take the right precautions, your family member got ill or died. So those are the most important thing. And then finally, I hope that when we bring people back to campus, we're pretty top notch in the state of California. And I want to keep that status. Santa Monica is top notch, in my opinion, for one reason and one reason only, and that's the faculty. They make us #1 in the state. They're the reasons why students come from Compton, Cudahy, South Central, Simi Valley. They all come because of the quality of education and the faculty that care a great deal about them. I hope that gives you a little bit of a vision.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Ed.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Hi. Referring to the revenue that's been raised over the past many years through bonds, can you tell us if those funds have been spent for the intended purpose and on the schedule that was intended?
I can tell you right now, the schedule, no. Is it on par? Yes and no, because as you know, with construction, they're not always going to be on par because of the fact that you go for bidding, and then by the time you go to build it, then the contractor says, oh no, my bill is outdated and I need to up it. So I would say the dating, no. In terms of what we were supposed to do with the bond, the answer is yes and no. The earlier bonds, other than the recent one, we completed what it was necessary. However, I think we were asked to deviate to purchase property that wasn't in the bond language, but it was the vision, it was the majority vision that it would be best for the college long-term to meet our master plan. And I'm sorry I'm bureaucratic there, so let me sound like somebody who doesn't understand that. Meaning, for example, in our master plan, we want to build a new art complex. So the property that's on 14th and Pico in the rear, they have designated that parcel to be where we're going to build the art complex. That's in the master plan. But was at that time, some of the money wasn't designated to purchase land. The current bond that we did allow for some purchasing of land. Now we've been confronted as a board recently, well, are you willing to use some of Santa Monica's vacant land to build housing for faculty and for students? My answer is yes, except with two things. I was asked, well, let's build dormitories for international students. I'm not open to that. And part of it is that I think that local students here are in such dire needs of housing that I want to see the housing go to students that are here in the state of California. The other thing is for the faculty. A lot of our faculty can't afford to live in Santa Monica. Some people live 90 to 100 miles away. I'd like to see them live closer to us. The last and the most important thing is I do not want to be a party to any displacement of elderly, disabled, or people of color. We had an opportunity to buy a parcel of land that was right across the street from us, and we turned it down because it would have meant an eviction of some African-American families that had been there 20 years plus. And so the majority of the board, most of the board said, no, we're not going to be about eviction of people to get a land to fulfill Santa Monica's vision of a master plan of how Santa Monica could look.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't throw too much jargon at you.
All right, very quickly, does an executive summary of what you just outlined exist? And if it doesn't, is it possible to get the Board of Trustees to put together a very brief executive summary, a rundown of what's happened with all of the bonds?
We have a bond committee that meets quarterly, and in there are in their minutes and their executive summary. It's in it. If you go to our website and you go to our bond oversight committee, you will see the members of the committee, you will see all their minutes, and you will see all their summaries of what they do. They are actually the oversight committee that approves the projects and not approve the projects.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
John, can I just get a clarification of that last
Okay.
answer? So Margaret, just on, you referred to faculty housing, but do you mean to limit that to faculty, or does it also include other people who work for the college who may not be able to afford to live here?
Well, no, I was talking about, I meant everybody that worked there, the
Okay.
staff.
That's what I
But-
assumed, but I
Yeah,
wanted to
because
be clear.
recently I've been asked about faculty and students, and I wasn't asked about staff, but employee of Santa Monica College and students, except for not the international, if there's not room for it, and no displacement.
Okay, let's go to Derek.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Like deja vu from LACDP yesterday. I wanted to ask you, nowhere in the schedule or the curriculum at Santa Monica College is a class devoted to civil liberties and the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In an era where we're talking about limitations on police power, racial profiling, limitations on the executive branch and the legislative branch, it would seem to me that this would be fundamentally important to an education. There's an intro to law class, but nothing that really focuses on civil liberty. I kind of was wondering what your thoughts were.
Well, I differ with that perception, and that is that and what I mean by that, there's not a class that's labeled Bill of Rights. There's not a class that's labeled the Constitution, but that is covered in all of our political science courses. And if you look at our Public Policy Institute, have you gone in there and looked at our curriculum? A lot of it is in there with especially activism with students, environment. It's begun to touch on people of color. It talked about LGBTQ rights, but there's not a particular, we have a law pathways, but that's more of a, it's a pathway program for people preparing them for law school, but nothing specifically written the way, the specificity that you said, but it's in that content. Otherwise, it can't meet the state of California requirements. The California state of requirements are called general education. And in general education, you have to have political science and U.S. history 1 and 2. So those things have to be covered there, or you will not be granted a degree either at a community college or at a four-year institutions. They are prerequisites to get in and to graduate.
But it could be offered as an elective. And you're right, that these subjects are loosely covered in your normal political science classes, but I was talking about something a little more in depth, focusing on the case law. But okay.
But it could, it's something that could be brought up. The board member from Santa Monica Malibu Unified, Richard Tavilian Jesslin, he is the director of the public policy. All it needs to happen is a matter of talking to Richard, and they don't have to go through an extensive review. They can just go, boom, this is the name of our class. But knowing Richard, he does cover that topic extensively.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll mention it to him.
I appreciate it.
I had a question, kind of dovetailing on the.
I'm sorry, who are you?
My name is Amy Bishop Dunbar.
Oh,
okay.
I'm so glad to see.
Good to
hey
see
guys,
you.
don't get mad, but female.
One of the things that is important, I think, is that we have seen a lot of activism by our youth and our young adults. And I wondered, in any capacity, has your college board had some conversations about allowing the opportunity for protests to take place on campus and how to deal with it? Because we have seen where enforcement has gotten out of hand, and certainly within our civil liberties, we have the right to voice our opinions and such like that. And I would think that there should be some program or some opportunity in place to permit students to exercise their civil liberties. Has this been something that the college has discussed to safeguard the opportunity for voices to be heard?
Let me frame it to you in this way. If we weren't in a pandemic, everything would be facilitated in order for students to have their protests. Everything. But because we are in a pandemic, I personally am not open to bring the students to the campus and expose them to the possibility of the coronavirus. Have our students been active in protests? Let's see, how do I say this? I'm involved where students confidentially have been involved with protests in LA and in Santa Monica, and they have had faculty members, and I can say my own daughter who works at SMC, who puts their life on the line and goes and be there and is there with the students as they're doing the protests. In terms of bringing them to the campus, I'm not now during the pandemic, I'm not open to it because I don't want to bring back any of the employees that are there or have some grouping of students together and somebody to get infected. But they are getting involved, trust me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much, and Margaret, we appreciate you coming by. We're gonna have to wrap it up there. So
You're done with me? Wow.
we got a lot of people to talk to.
I know,
So,
but I'm really good.
Can I make one last comment?
yes, of course.
Sure. So Margaret, you started out by talking about how important it is to diversify both the leadership and the membership of the endorsing organizations in town, and we're one of them. And this organization is on record publicly of acknowledging that we have a lot more to do in that area, and we actually have a diversity committee. We're working on it to make it better. So, so what I also wanted to say was, to the extent you can assist us by having credibility in your community to tell people, come, please try out the Santa Monica Democratic Club, see what the meetings are about, see what they address. Here's what they do. Here's why it matters. They do have a low income policy, and we actually have a policy if people can't even afford our lowest income thing.
Right.
That no registered Democrat is ever turned down. So please be an ambassador for us as well, and help us be better.
Can I give you a couple of suggestions?
Absolutely.
some of it is engaging in practices that's going to entice them to come. For example, say you're going to have a jazz band. It's going to bring a lot of people come out to do that to an event. Say you're going to have a Latino jazz band. It could be even mariachis, different types of things that culturally that will bring people to these events. That's going to do it. You also have faces of people talking at your events so that they do look like them. The other thing is that when references are made, and I know it's not meant to be exclusive, but it's done, and I watched it through this whole process, there has to be an inclusion of the language and visually. Lately, and rightfully so, and it should be, Black lives have been in the forefront, and it should be. But there's very minimal highlighting of Latinos and how they are the essential workers and how they have been devastated in this and how they have been brutalized by the police department and how they are underappreciated during this pandemic. So it's, you need to, everybody wants to hear their name, right?
Right.
But I'm there to help.
Doing better in that area. If you check out some of the videos of our recent meetings,
I'll do
But
whatever
we
I can.
complete, but we completely take your point and we appreciate your assistance to us as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thanks, Margaret. Appreciate it.
Welcome.